All right, everybody, you've argued with them. You've probably been scolded by them. And you probably blame them for that goal that you missed on the wide open net last game. Today, we're getting inside the mind of a beer league referee. On this episode of the Beer Leaguer podcast, we are joined by Mr. Ron Wilson, one of the referees that gets the pleasure of watching my games here in Cleveland.
Watching, I like that. Yeah, I just watch.
Well, I say that because you don't really have to referee me. I am like the nicest, sweetest person out there. You get to just enjoy watching me skate around. I'm sure it's a joy to watch that.
Well, it's not just you, it's your team. You're representing your team. So when you say watch me, you're representing your team in that environment. So yes, I'm watching your team and you are a part of that.
Yeah, there you go. That's a nice way. That's a much nicer way of putting that. Much nicer way of putting that. All right, so I think start things off. How did you get into reffing?
Wow, well, loaded story. So I've been officiating hockey for 5 or 6 seasons. I got into it because I've been in hockey forever, and I was on the other side. I was a coach. I was an administrator. I ran a program and was a part of a youth program here in Cleveland for 30 years. So I started when I was young, and I was working with a woman, and we have, for 30 years, ran one of the largest beginner programs. So starting out youth, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds in Cleveland. And so I did that for 30 years, instructional based, skating, things of that nature. And then as my kids came through, I was able to coach them pretty much throughout their careers up through and including high school. And in after the COVID year, the woman I worked with, she was a full-time city worker at the rec complex in Rocky River, and she retired. And I said, hey, because you're retiring, we're done. And so at that time, we kind of gave everything up. And at that time, I had become the president and the hockey director of the youth program, and done so for 8 to 10 years, let's say. And so by that time, I had had enough, but I still had something to give, and I've always had interest in officiating. And so I said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and take the leap. And as they say, as all the refs say, you jump to the dark side.
I could see that. Now, have most of the refs that you're reffing with, have most of them played?
You know, that's another great question. I would say, for the most part, yes. Most officials have played youth hockey or up through high school hockey at some level, and then decided that they wanted to officiate, or they've officiated since they were in high school or as youth, and as well as playing at the same time. And there are a lot of referees that still do play and officiate at the same time.
Yeah, that's a big thing that I notice with our league that I play in and you ref in, is a lot of those guys, it kind of seems to be splitting into 2 groups of guys that are still playing or just finished playing, or now we're getting in this group of kids that are, I guess, just kind of done with high school or maybe done with college, and, kind of don't feel like playing, but it's, a way to stay in hockey without really having to have the commitment of playing.
That's another great point too, is being able to be on the ice and be a participant in hockey, but not playing. So I am not one of the hockey playing officials. I haven't picked up a stick for over a year and a half, maybe 2 years, because I do see a lot of ice and I enjoy officiating. And, I had a long career. I mean, I think I played in the league for 25 years on various teams, and saw the churn and the cycles of, we had a team, and then we got older and we split off, and then the younger guys went and the older guys went, and then, that team tried to recruit younger guys, and we just kept getting older. And so there became a point where For me, it just wasn't fun anymore playing. I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, all aspects of it, hanging out in the locker room and, those relationships, things of that nature. And I still miss it to this day. But with the amount of officiating that I do, not just for men's league, but for youth, high school, I've done some college club games, things of that nature, that it becomes a point where I just don't want to see another rink.
I can see that. I mean, I can see how it'd get tiresome, but I can also see how you'd miss it. That's a big thing we talk about here with all different people is the off-ice stuff. That's what people miss a lot.
Yep.
Because especially as you kind of get older, I always say it's hard to make friends when you're an adult because the only people you see are the people you work with in your family. And, so many people work remotely, so you don't even see those people. Probably don't even work in the same state as a lot of them. So you don't see anybody but your family. So how are you going to make friends and meet people? And it's stuff like hockey. And I'll say one
Before
of the
you
big...
move on, I have great stories behind that too, because I agree with you. And just because we're not in the room with you guys and there's only two officials, we on the official side are still creating camaraderie with our peers, having conversations, getting together. I know at the end of the season, we precipitated a little get together for just some officials just to kind of close the winter season out. So there is, and for me, I've known many of the officials for a very long period of time. Before I became an official, I said I was a coach. And so I got to know a lot of those guys that way. And then when I became an official, it just kind of increased that. The second piece to that, and here's a great example too of like what you just said, if you're going to a strange town and, you've played hockey, you want to hook up with a team and meet some people, things of that nature, that's great. But sometimes you don't always know, hey, what's the right group to get involved with? And so my oldest son, I convinced him to get into officiating, and he lives up in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And at first he's like, well, I want to get into a beer league because I want to meet some people. I don't really know anybody here except for people I work with. And I said, you know what, you'd be surprised how many people you can meet officiating. And so he started officiating up there, and he started to meet a few people here and a few people there. And now he's fully ingrained in the officiating cycle. He's done very well for himself. He's caught the eye of a few officials that have been around for a while and he's been to some USA hockey camps, but mostly he's met, the officials he works with, their significant others. It's created its own social group for him and his wife in a strange town, to where now they do, like, I talked to him last week. Yeah, we're getting together with so-and-so and we're having a little get together and they're having parties. And so they've created their own social setting. In fact, this past summer, they formed their own beer league team. Bunch of referees playing hockey. Imagine that. Imagine how that goes. A bunch of referees yelling at other referees for not making the right calls.
Yes, I feel bad for whoever has to ref that game.
That's what I asked them. I go, okay, if all the refs are on your team, who's officiating the game?
Yeah, that's, I never thought of it. That's got to be a really good kind of like backdoor way to sneak into learning about the hockey in the area, because the refs are the ones that know that, like, probably ref multiple leagues. So they know, like, hey, that's the league that kind of a lot of rough stuff and kind of goons it up. This is the one that's super chill and the guys hang out. This is, the groups that are really good and kind of stuff like that. That'd be a good way to get in. And if you start reffing and learn, talk to the refs and do different stuff like that and get in and learn about an area before you actually start playing in it.
Yeah, because believe it or not, the referees in the air, once you start officiating some of these teams, you get to know some of the people on the teams and their tendencies and who the personalities are and the characters are on each team. And so you got a pretty good insight as to, because you see all of the teams. There's a chance you go through a season and you're seeing every division, every team, you get to know guys. And so, it's a pretty good snapshot for what that looks like.
Yeah. So, and that's one of the things I know with you is kind of everybody in the league knows you. you do ref so much. Well, it's multiple reasons. It's you ref so much, you're personable. Not every ref is personable out there. Most of generally they are, but not every single one is. And that makes a big difference. How much does, the people chatting with you, like I'm obviously, you know this, I'm a big chatter to the refs before and after games and stuff. And, I don't know. I feel like I'm not trying to like color calls. I'm just being friendly about stuff because I like to know everybody and, kind of be a part of things. How much does stuff like that, or even the other end of that, people that are kind of being jerks, how much does that, and how hard is it to not have that color what you call and do during a game?
Yeah, it's tough at times. The advantage that I have over a lot of officials is, like I mentioned before, being around the game of hockey and having kids and just running a program. And so you recognize a lot of players that, there's kids that, in fact, over the summer, there's a family that plays, and the daughter and the son both played, started with me, almost 30 years ago. And, you get to know them, and it doesn't mean that you get any graces with them. It just means like, I think that, there's a little more personal interaction there. So, because again, there's a lot of people that don't know who I am, and they just know me as an official, and they may have an opinion one way or the other about, how we make calls or how we manage the game. And that's the other expectation is we don't control the game. A referee doesn't control your actions out on the ice. We make calls based on what we see and how it's done. Now, you may have a temperature of a game where someone is a little high, high fluid, personality, skill set, and, people may not like that. And so, you do gauge the temperature of the game. But again, I think I always like to think at any level, being personable and communicate what you're doing and answering questions to somewhat a decent point helps, because, Mike, as the league that we're most visible with, there's a lot of beginners. And,
Yep.
My common question over the last couple of years is, what color is the rule book? Like, meaning, when have you picked up the rule book and read a rule book? Because there are several, depending on, as an official, we have to know rules for 4 different leagues. And there's different sets of rules there. And the beer league that we officiate, that you play in, it's got a rule set goes back to 2004. And so it hasn't been updated. And so there's a lot of different variations of, because some guys don't read it. So they don't know. So they're making calls based on what maybe USA Hockey or Federated in high school and all that stuff. And that's not the interpretation from H&A. So number one, we have to be consistent, and we have to communicate that. But also, I feel it's my job to also help some of those beginners or lower skilled teams to understand the game a little bit more. They see it. They I can't tell you how many times somebody puts the puck over the glass and they're like, oh, it's a penalty, right? And I'm like, we're not in the NHL. We're not, we don't have a rule for that in this league. And so you have to explain that. And, like, I think last week I had a game, and, a player was behind another player and had a stick up and is underneath it, and the guy chicken winged it, meaning he held his stick. So he got it up in his shoulder, and he held it. And the player whose stick it was let it go, and he's complaining to me about him holding his stick. And I said, well, technically you're in violation of a hooking rule because you're behind him, you're not playing the puck, and the stick's vertical, or horizontal up, in his thing. So of course he's going to hang on to it. So I went and explained that to him, and he's like, hey, I really appreciate you explaining that, because I didn't realize that. And it's like, okay, so those are the things, because, most of these newer players or beginner players don't read the rules. They think they know the rules, but they never read them.
Yeah. I think it's a couple things with that from my perspective of someone that came in as a brand new player. is one, our rule book isn't the same as the NHL, because that's what people tend to know as the NHL rules, maybe USA hockey rules, and it's not all the same. I mean, so the basics of like, I get what hooking is, I get, offsides, but like you're saying, like puck over the glass or things like that, like it's different. And then also, kind of how you see stuff, people don't get the perspective of playing is different from how you see things from a third person. Either because I know from talking to you and other refs, like there's stuff that happens that you guys are like, I can't see that because it's like behind a pile of 4 other dudes. I can't see what's over there. It's on the other side of the net behind everybody. Or, you're watching the puck. You're not watching there's just 2 of you for our games. You can't see every little thing that goes on everywhere at all times.
Yeah.
And it's, that, and it's also like, hey, if I'm skating and somebody is trying to knock the puck away from me and they hit me in the leg, I might be going, hey, they're trying to trip me. Whereas you see it from, a couple feet away and you're like, no, they were just going for the puck and it wasn't, it didn't do anything. It's a very different perspective of that. Especially beginners, I think, don't realize that.
Well, and there's a lot of interpretations for those type of rules, and we'll call them stick infractions. So anything with the stick, like tripping, hooking, slashing, things of that nature. In a men's or in an adult beer league type setting, those things happen all the time. And if we made every ticky-tack call, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't type situation. If you make the call, you're a jerk. If you don't make the call, you're a jerk. So there's always the perspective of each team is mad at you because you either did or did not make a call. But what we're trying to do is keep the flow of the game. So if there's something that's there and, somebody trips someone and, it didn't result in a turnover, an injury, a goal, something like that. There's chances are that you might just let it go because it wasn't serious enough of an infraction. Is it an infraction? No doubt. By the rules, yes. By the interpretation or the situation, maybe it isn't. And, just like, we've talked about before, everybody's got to get up for work the next day. Yeah, you don't want things to happen and you don't want things to escalate. So yeah, maybe there's calls that are being made because you don't want things to escalate. So you might make that call, and other times you might not make that call. So, but again, you're trying to take the whole experience into mind and make sure that everybody should have fun. Everybody should compete. Everybody should stay safe. And when it doesn't happen, it's our job to kind of, police that and make sure that things are enforced.
And I think it's along the same lines of that. One of the things that I noticed playing on multiple teams and then scorekeeping all the different levels is some referees do better job of this, I think, than others. And I think you do an excellent job of kind of, I don't know the right way to put it, but refereeing to the level. Whereas you kind of know, like, hey, we're playing beginner level guys. They probably can't control their stick as well. They don't know, they can't stop as good, stuff like that. Whereas you might let something go at a beginner level, whereas like our top level are, people that probably played through high school, maybe played some level of, something in college, and, they're fast, they know what they're doing. So like, oh no, that wasn't you just kind of were trying to do something, you wind up tripping the guy. You don't, you have better control of what you're doing. You're going for a trip, you can tell, and kind of varying with that.
Yes, it's a great point. Skill level does have something to play in that, and so, it's for me personally, it's taken a while to learn that. And so when I first started officiating, I was doing lower level 10U, 12U type stuff, which most officials start at different levels of skill set. But the one thing that I wanted to do was do some beer league at the lower level, mid-level type stuff because I wanted to learn. And I'm still learning. And you're always in different situations. The one thing they tell referees every year when you go through a seminar is you got to read the rule book. You got to master the rules. And when you look at the book, it's like golf. Golf has a set of rules, but then golf has a bunch of situations. Hockey's the same way. There are a bunch of situations that you read that you're like, oh my God, that would never happen in a game. but it's written in the book because it has happened in the game. So we're always learning and adapting and trying to do different things at different levels. So yeah, it's a challenge any way you look at it. We're going to miss calls, or we're going to, do things differently. But the one thing I try to be is consistent and at least work as hard as I can, no matter what the game is. I don't care if it's a higher level game, a lower level game. I still want to give as much of my effort as I can, because we're getting paid out there to do a job, and people want to know, hey, we're not slacking, we're not snuffing off, we're not taking a lower division game less serious than an upper division game.
No, and I think that's greatly appreciated, and it's noticed. It's noticed by players and everything. When some officials do that for a lower level game, and they're like, whatever, I'm here. As long as the fight doesn't start, I don't care. Oh,
right.
I mean, there are refs that do that. I mean, I've seen that, so I think that's a big thing. Now,
I will neither confirm nor deny that.
Well, I'll confirm it.
On the grounds it may incriminate me at a later date.
Because I can say this not just for like my teams, but as a neutral third party, because I do score keep a lot. So I get to see a lot of this that I'm like not involved in. It's like a division I don't play in. I have no stakes in it, which is very different than even when I like score keep something that's in a division I'm in. So I'm like, oh, that guy's a jerk. I don't like when I play against him. Why didn't you call him for that? Where it's like it's a level I don't play at. It's like, oh yeah, that was fine. That was nothing or whatever. Now, as someone that does play, and like I said earlier, I do try and be friendly with all of the officials and have a good repartee with all of you guys. So I can ask you questions, because I ask you questions like, hey, and I try to not be a jerk when I go, hey, why wasn't that called or something like that. And I'd say 99 times out of 100, I get a nice answer, not just from you, but from everybody of, this is why I didn't call it, because, this or this. It's like, okay, good or bad, it's whatever it is, versus getting yelled at or saying something, like, hey, I didn't call it because I don't like you. I don't usually hear that. I have. What, from a ref perspective, do you wish players either, were better about asking or didn't ask? Or, I mean, besides just being a jerk to refs and blaming refs for everything, what do you wish players understood more or did better job of interacting with you?
I'll answer that by stating, when I was the administrator of a youth program, the one thing that I touted to coaches was, and I tried to stress, be polite, kill them with kindness, all that stuff. I mean, that's just me on a personal level, but I feel like nobody wants to get yelled at, right? I mean, things happen, and, I've been in games where things have happened and I've yelled or raised voices or something at an official because maybe they're not hustling, maybe they're not in position, or maybe they missed something. But again, it's a totally different perspective when you play, when you coach, when you spectate, versus when you're out there as an official, dodging pucks, dodging players, trying to see everything. So the one thing I've always said was, try not to have a level of respect and try not to get on an official until you have that perspective. Like if you're a player and a coach, I always encourage, especially now, because I've done it for 5-6 years. We're trying to get more officials in the game. We're trying to bring, new people in. I've let them know what my experience is. But a lot of coaches and players, you want to put them in that position because you want them to understand why I did what I did, or why I didn't do what I did, and why I answered things the way that it answered. There's a lot of officials who won't go to a bench and answer questions. They won't talk to players. They'll just say, this is my call and you got to live with it, because they've had previous experiences that weren't very good, quite frankly. And they're just done. They're like, you don't deserve any of that, because I'm here. This is my job. I'm making this call, whether you like it or not. This is the way it stands. I take a softer approach to that, but I do, it is different. And I've had people come up to me and tell me like, hey, I started officiating and I was a coach for 18 million years, and it's different. It's different. And so, but yeah, I mean, just from a personal standpoint, I'd like to treat people how I want to be treated. And so, but understanding that if temperatures get a little hot, okay, fine. I mean, you're competing, you're in a game. Here's what you see. Here's what I see. Here's why I did what I did. And as long as you explain that, or even if you admit your mistakes, even in seminars for USA Hockey, they say, it's okay to admit a mistake. Don't admit too many, though, because you don't want to be, oh, I didn't see that. And then 5 minutes later, oh, I didn't see that. Well, what are you doing? What are you doing out there? But you do miss certain things at times. And as long as you're handling it the right way, I think everybody's fine with it.
I will say we did have, for one of my teams at the end of last year in the playoffs, a penalty that it was not a penalty. The whole bench thought it was a penalty. We were pissed about it. And I remember asking the ref, like during a stoppage, like, hey, what happened? Why wasn't that a call? This is what we saw. And their actual response was, I wasn't looking at that part of the play. I didn't see it. If it was, I'm sorry, I missed it. And it was just like such an honest thing. And I was like, I remember going back to the bench and I said, like, they were, it was like they were watching, it was an away from the puck play and they were watching the puck. And I went back to the bench and I was like, they were watching the puck. They didn't see that. They're sorry. And it was just kind of, everyone was like, oh. Like, you can't be pissed. Like, it was one of those, like, you're pissed that it didn't get called, but it was like, because they were pissed at the ref really bad. I was like, oh, well, oh. Okay. Oh, well, that sucks.
Well, and hopefully that's what you have a partner for, is to see the things that you don't, especially if, like, in a situation like that. I remember, was that me that said that? Because I've said that a couple times, because, like, when scrums are in front of the net, right? You're trying to watch the goal line and the goalie. Does the goalie cover the puck? Where's the puck? Is it crossing the line? And there's a bunch of stuff that can happen in front of the net that you don't see because you're trying to make sure the puck stays in or is saved, or you're protecting the goalie. And so that did happen where somebody came up to me and said, hey, this guy just totally slashed me in front of the net. I'm like, look, dude, I didn't see it. I'm watching the goalie. I'm trying to watch the puck in the net. And, that's when you go over to your partner and maybe ask, hey, did you see any of this? And I mean, 9 times out of 10, your partner's watching in front of the net. So if they saw something, they would more than likely make that call. But
right.
But yeah, we do. I mean, those things happen. And in that same situation, when the person said that and I said, hey, I explained what it was, he's like, okay, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a simple, it's such a simple reason, and it's a complete de-escalator. It was like, well, you can't argue with it. Just like, well, that sucks. All right.
Yeah.
Move on. It's
can only call what you see.
Exactly. So do you think it would be better if more players at least tried reffing, at some level and gave it a shot? Do you think that would be good for that?
100%.
So do you think?
Now, before you go on that, I will tell you some of the most egregious people that I've played with or have seen that abuse officials are officials. I used to tell a couple guys that I used to play with, I'm like, you guys are the worst on officials, and you're officials. Like, I don't understand that. Like, what do you have against these people that you're just so irate with them, but then you're an official? So I never understood that, because I'm like, I don't want people yelling at me.
I will say I think that's the only people I've seen like yell about like a particular rule is officials that are skating out and playing to other officials.
Somebody knows the rule.
Yeah. Like, hey, that's such and such rule. Why didn't you call that? It's like, really? That's what you're okay. I don't it for me, it's one of those things I've never understood. I get when you get pissed about something, you yell about it real quick, but then it's like, okay, after you say, hey, why didn't you call it or whatever, after that, it's such diminishing returns. And it very quickly turns into the only thing that's going to happen is somebody's going to get pissed at you. And, that's not good. Because I never want any refs to be pissed with me. Because
right.
I don't need you guys mad at me and making calls that, are borderline against me. I don't need to happen.
That doesn't happen.
Well,
Yeah, well, but again, it's in those situations, it's that person's a player. I'm the official. So if the roles were reversed and I'm the player, okay, you can say explain why you did or did not make a call. I don't have any jurisdiction over that. I'm a player. I'm not an official at the time. So it's like you got to take one hat off, put the other hat on. But, some guys do. They want to, impart their wisdom on, maybe it's somebody that's more senior or somebody that's been around or done more things and says, hey, you're not in a position to make that call. You've only been doing this for X amount of years. It's like, no, when we're out there, it's our game. We're the official. You're the player.
Yeah, I could see that. I could totally see that. All right, so that's a good thing to know though that you think more players should try reffing. Now, do you think that if you were going to say more players should try reffing, should they try reffing beer league games? Because that's probably the easiest thing to get into is to reffing beer league games or reffing. I mean, it would obviously be like little kids and stuff.
Yeah,
like that level.
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of both. I think you can do beer league adult type games. The problem is that like when you just start off, and we know there's a handful of guys that did last year and over the summer and will continue that that are only doing beer league stuff and have never done youth or high school. So the one perspective that I would say is, I mean, it's not a bad way to start. But the thing that you don't get is the training and the knowledge and the rules and the certifications that if you did, beer league and then youth. So I would always recommend, start with youth. Yeah, it's a commitment. There's some money involved and you got to go through the seminars and all this other stuff. But again, you have to learn, just basic positioning. Where do you need to be how to drop a puck? That's the other important thing that, when I learned, somebody taught me, hey, here's how you drop the puck. Like, don't have your head down and don't do this because you have to look when imagine when you drop a puck. What's going on after you drop a puck? It's a freaking melee.
Yeah.
And you're right in the middle of it. So what are you doing to get out of the way and note your surroundings so that you don't get killed? So I would, and again, I've talked to many people that I've known over the years and tried to recruit them into officiating because, like I said, for the most part, I've enjoyed it. I have fun with it. I will continue doing it as long as I'm physically able to, and I have fun doing it. And I urge them to give it a shot. And there are some guys. Listen, there's some guys. I'll drop a name. Steve Lax. Steve Lax was in a seminar for USA Hockey to officiate youth games, and because we've talked to him about it, and it'll be fun to watch his progression. It'll be interesting, to see how he does and how he reacts. But there's somebody that's he's at least giving it a shot and he's learning and taking that on. And so here's the other disclaimer: it's not for everyone. There are a lot of people that I would discourage from doing it because I don't know that they could handle it. So it just depends.
Okay. Well, that's what I was thinking is it might behoove, I think, the majority of people to at least go through the stuff, go through training and learn kind of the perspective. And maybe they wind up doing almost no games. Maybe they ref like just a handful of kids games for 1 year and that's it. And then do some beer league games and stay there, or don't do any more and just go through the whole training of only ref, 10 games or less. I would think that would be enough though to give hopefully some perspective and some idea of kind of what you guys are going through and what you were saying, how it's different. It's the same thing of, I think, especially for beginners, watching hockey, you think you know what's going on, you step on the ice, start playing, totally different thing. Same thing of you're playing to moving over to reffing. You think you know what's going on. Totally different thing.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
So, okay. You've talked about, kind of going from the I didn't want to just say player because I always knew you as a player before a ref, but going from,
Right.
Player, administrator, all that to the reffing perspective, what surprised you most, good or bad, getting into reffing?
Oh my gosh, what surprised me the most? I think I'm still surprised every day. There's always new things that happen all the time. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think back on when I started and some of the things that had happened. I mean, so my milestones have been, starting in youth and then doing beer league and then graduating after like 2 or 3 years to do high school. And then once I started doing high school, I started doing some college club stuff, which, I mean, again, I'm not a young chicken, and so to do some of that stuff, is it's physically taxing and you got to keep up and it's some work. And so I think when you look at it, it's and just being around the game, the thing that surprises me the most, I think, are just how people react and look at officials. And I say that knowing that I think that there's a stigma for officials, like we're automatically, because we're wearing stripes, we're the bad guy. And I think people look at you differently, and kids look at you differently. Like kids look at you like, man, this guy's gonna make this crappy call and I got to go to the box and my coach is going to get mad. And, there's just a stigma of, we're there just to make bad calls. And it's not the case. And so the other thing has surprised me over the years is, and again, being in youth, there's still a lot of kids that I've had when they were 4, 5, 6 years old that are in, that are 14s, that are in high schools, things like that. And so, and they know how I am. I'm a pretty fun-loving guy. I like to joke around and do some things, but it's kids that I don't know. When you start talking to them, like during a game, like during a face-off, they look at you like, oh my God, this guy's actually human. Like he's not some robot out here just trying to make bad calls. He's actually cracking jokes. It's like, yeah, deep down inside, I'm a human being. And so, I have a personality and I want to have fun. I want the kids to have fun. I want them to succeed. I mean, somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to lose. It's part of the game, but are you having fun doing it? And so I like to bring a little bit of that energy to a lot of the games. So, but it surprised me early on when, kids would just look at you as you're talking to them and cracking jokes. They're like, what are you talking about, old man? Like, you're the ref. You're not supposed to be doing that stuff.
I will say it's not just kids, because over the last couple of years, we've had some new people join one of my teams, a couple different guys, and they're not shocked that that we chat with the refs, but they're more used to the refs that are talking because they're either not paying attention or the refs that come over and just like talk crap and nothing else, come by, say something and then go away. They're used to that. Whereas, we have a number of refs in our league. You're one of them that will just talk during the game, or like you said, on a face-off or something or before games. And it's not being a jerk or anything. It's not, cracking on each other. It's just friendly banter. And I'm thinking of two people in particular that were just kind of shocked by this. I'm like, you talk to the refs? Like, yeah. Like, oh, you're trying to get calls and stuff? Like, no. Like,
Yeah.
I see them, however many times a year. I mean, we only have so many refs in our league. Like, I see them up like, I don't know how many times a week do I see you during the fall and winter?
A few times, yeah.
So it's like, you kind of, you see somebody that often. I mean, I see you more often than some of my teammates,
Right.
So it's like, yeah, you just kind of get to know people and you're chatting with them. And yeah, they were just kind of shocked by that there's, I guess, that friendliness.
Yeah. And there's probably some guys that show up and see you and I talking or whatever and go, oh my God, this guy again? Just had him last week and he's just going to make the worst calls or he's not going to do this. So I always worry about that in my brain too, where, people look at you coming out of the ice. Cause as a coach, I did that. I'm like, man, this guy. But again, you get to know their tendencies and, you would coach your kids to say, hey, this is what's going to happen here. This guy's going to make these calls. And so we have to be on the lookout for that and be on the straight and narrow, just whatever it is. But yeah, it's, you know, and again, like I said, I like to have fun. I'm not coming just because it's, you know, $50. You know, money's money. It's a nice thing to have. It's the separator, but it's like I want to come out and get a skate, and I want, like, especially in the summer, I want to skate at least once a week just to keep going and everything else. And you know, the money's a nice thing, but I don't want you to be miserable, and I don't want me to be miserable.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen from any team's Diamond perspective of us seeing any of the refs and going, oh no, not this person. But I have seen us do the thing of, oh, it's, you know, it's this guy. Well, we know this guy's not, you know, this guy really doesn't call any icings. So just be aware of it. Or, you know, stuff, more things like that. Not like, ah, crap, but like this guy doesn't call that, or, oh boy, this guy's got a super quick whistle. So anything that the goalie gets, he's blowing the whistle right away. It's more of those kind of stuff that we tend to learn from the people and you know, communicate out with the team. And when we see you guys come out, like, okay, you know, we know, like, you know, no icing is going to get called, or quick whistles or slow whistles or whatever. And it's also like a time of day thing too, because there is the thing of certain refs are very different in how quickly they'll call stuff if it's a 7:30 on a Sunday versus a 10:15 on a Tuesday. Which I totally get, and I think everyone expects. Like, that's, I'm not saying that badly. I'm just saying that that's I think a pretty normal thing, you know, because especially on how games go, like when, you know, you're playing something everybody's blown out, like
everybody's got life going on, and so some guys carry baggage, and they might be in a bad mood at 10:15 or, you know, something like that, and a better mood at 7:30. It might be sunny out or whatever, and yeah, I mean, that's the human side to things, but it's like any, you know, job or, you know, thing that you do, responsibility that you have, is you try not to let one spill into the other.
Right.
But I mean, inevitably it's going to happen because you're dealing with the human sector, and everybody's different, has different views. Somebody may be looking at this podcast, you know, later on and going, this guy's nuts. He has no idea what he's talking about. How is he representing officials? Well, it's just, you know, that's my perspective.
No, you're representing every official. What you're saying on this episode is literally coming out of every official.
Oh, I speak for everyone.
Across the globe.
Don't put my contact information on there. I don't need any emails, phone calls, texts from anybody, you know. You can handle all that. Just filter those out for me, will you?
No problem. No problem. Yeah, any complaints, just come to the show. We'll take care of it.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, so you have you've been doing this now. I can't believe you've only been officiating for like 5 years. That's crazy to me. But I guess it makes sense because like I said, I knew you as a player before this, but it's just, I feel like I've known you for way longer than 5 years doing this. So you've probably seen some stuff, and I'm talking strictly in the land of beer league.
Okay.
You've probably seen some interesting, I think is the way I'll put it, things. Hey everybody, I just want to take a quick moment to invite you to go check out thebeerleaguer.com. Here you can check out all the latest and previous podcast episodes, all the goofy and hopefully sometimes informative social media posts, and all the different ways to contact the show. You can sign up for the newsletter or even leave a voicemail for the show. Or if you prefer, you can use the contact form here and send us in any thoughts you have on the current episode you're listening to or any future show ideas. Thanks a lot. Go check it out, thebeerleaguer.com. Now back to the show.
I mean, interesting things, situations. Are you strictly speaking from a player's perspective or a referee perspective or a player perspective?
I mean, I was thinking referee, but I will also take player perspective as well.
Oh, man. I mean, from a referee standpoint, you know, it's, I mean, I don't know. It's funny. I just shouldn't say funny because it happened to me a couple weeks ago. You know, you see some of your partners and you have fun with it when like a ref falls down And there's a kind of an unwritten code, like, especially when you're doing like a high school game or a youth game, like if a ref takes a spill, they owe you a beer, So
Oh, okay.
there's a certain official that, younger kid that I've known for a very long time, that I've done a few games with, and he owes me quite a few beers because he's taken spills during games. And one of them, he like took a spill and like slid like, from the blue line halfway through the zone. And I'm the play's going on and I'm laughing my ass off as he's sliding on the ice. And I'm like, oh, you owe me a beer for that. And so, yeah, it's never fun when it happens to you, but it happens. You get, you get taken out or you get hit with the puck. And so those are the things like that amuse me. And I'm sure it amuses them too. Like when I get hit with a puck or fall down or whatever, because I mean, it happens. We're not, perfect out there. I'm not the most fluid skater at my age. And so, things happen. I don't really know if I can go into some of the things that I've seen from a player perspective, because I played on some teams where there's been some characters on the teams, and we've been a pretty tight-knit group and done some things and created some rules that, around teams and personalities and things like that. Like, I'll give you one example. And these guys follow it today. There's teams that are out there that have like team jackets, and they award the team jacket to their player of the game after the game, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. And on our team, it was always, well, if you get the jacket, number one, you have to wear it to the bar afterward. You have to get a picture with the bartender. And then you are in charge to bring beverages for the next game, if they're allowed, in the parking lot or wherever you have beverages. So it does a couple things. One, it ensures that you have what you need for the next game, and it ensures that player shows up, and then you just have fun, around it. So there's been some pretty entertaining things that that ended up in the pocket of the jacket. That when it gets passed down, that somebody reaches into the jacket and finds, because you can't wash it. It's like your jerseys. You can't wash the jacket.
Right.
You just wear it. It's all sweaty, and guys have worn it like without shirts on underneath, and they go to the bar and they're just, yeah. And so somebody reached into a pocket and found something in there, and it just, just kind of lived in infamy. We'll have a dramatic pause and let you think about that as smoke comes out your ears as to what you think it could be.
I really know what I want it to be.
Are you waiting for me to say, or are we just?
I'm waiting for you to say it now. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was a male prophylactic.
New or used?
Oh, in the package. In the package.
Okay.
Well, good question. No, in the package.
Okay.
Just place there in case somebody needed it, I guess. I guess that was the line of thinking, is whoever put it in there had said, hey, maybe one of my teammates down the road is gonna need this.
Oh, I imagine if you got the jacket, that's probably, you're going out to the bar afterwards. Probably pretty popular at the bar with, when they find out why you have it, the jacket. So you might need that.
There are some younger guys. Let's put it that way. There are some younger guys that do embrace that and did embrace that. And so yes, but for some of us old hats, that's we're just there to get a couple chicken wings and a couple glasses of water and go home.
Exactly. Yes, glasses of water. Yep. Well, I think that's good, because we're all about like the locker room stuff here, and I think you've noticed on my teams. We very much have, I think, a very good locker room culture. We, for the most part, everybody likes to hang out afterwards, and just kind of, we're hanging out and talking about the dumbest stuff. I'm always thinking about this show and thinking like, hey, maybe there's going to be some good like hockey related topics I can bring up. No, it's almost never hockey stuff like that. We talk hockey in the locker room while everybody's kind of changing. And then by the time we get out in the parking lot afterwards, it's like the most random conversations of stuff.
True.
But it's, it's fun stuff. It's stuff people really get into, but it's like the dumbest crap. It's, people talking about something they saw on TV, or did you guys see this, this thing somebody had on Instagram, and then they're showing everybody on their phone, or, I mean, you hear the stuff that gets, that at least that we talk about, and it's,
well, but again, that's a sign of, everybody knows everybody. Again, teams that I've played on, you get into a locker room and you come early because maybe you haven't seen guys. Like, it maybe the first couple games of the winter league, and maybe you haven't been together. Some guys play golf and do stuff in the summer. Most guys don't skate, but those first couple of skates, I mean, you're around these guys a lot. You're in the sanctity of the room. There's nothing like beer league hockey, right? That's why it's called beer league, because you go to a rink, you're in a room, you're playing throughout the winter, so it's freezing ass cold outside, but you're in a room to get dressed. Then you're out on the ice sitting on a bench. Then you're in the room afterward to get undressed. So, when I played, the one thing that we always surrounded ourselves with was guys with good personalities. I mean, the hockey playing had nothing to do with it. It was, do you have a good personality? Are you reliable? Are you going to show up? Like, guys don't show up every, you got stuff going on, but you get, there's guys that I've played with that I've known for a very long time. In fact, they were kids. They were, they were hockey players in the youth program. And so you bring them on and you talk about their families. You talk, like, there's guys on my last team that I played with that were all in their young, like early 30s. They just started getting married. They just started having kids. So yeah, you talk about like life stuff and things like that, and hockey brings you together. But nobody wants to, like, you talk about like, oh, you see this NHL game, or did you watch this, or did you see this? But the nuances of the beer league and things like that, I think, get left behind once you kind of leave that room a little bit. But you get to know guys and on a personal level, and that's the fun part. Is you always want to surround yourself with people that you like to hang out with because you spend a lot of time with them.
No, that's perfect. We have on my summer team now. Well, not anymore because he's away at college. We have one of the players' kids has played the last couple summers with us, and it's this funny realization that I've had and other guys on the team have had of like, wow, this kid's been on the team now for, I think, like 3 years or something. But a lot of us, because we've known his dad for a long time, we've known this kid for 12 years or something. Like, we've known him since he was a little kid,
Same.
And like, that's what you get to know. You get to know everybody, like we always, one of the big running jokes is, I know everybody's family on my team, because just you meet people, random people come to games or, go to a tournament or something, and they bring family, and you meet everybody's wife and their kids and sometimes parents and all kinds. It's just funny how you get to know everybody like that. Like that's what I was saying, the difference between kind of making friends with beer league versus like people you work with. People I work with, I don't know anybody's family. And there's people that I worked with for, 4 or 5 years, and maybe I knew their significant other. Maybe, from like, oh, we go to the Christmas party every year or something like that. But then there's guys like I've played hockey with for 3 years, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know their wife. I know both of their parents. I met their sister. I know their 2 kids. They all know me, kind of thing. And it's a very different atmosphere of people. Very different.
Well, but again, that's the perspective. And I mean, we're just concluding the summer session for our league, and there are several teams. One, in fact, I mean, your team with a father-son combo, and then there's another team that with a father-daughter combo, and then the son plays on another team. There's another team that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, a lot. 5 sets of fathers playing with their sons. And that's fun. I mean, it's a great environment. Like, I always said, like, and my kids have said the same thing. Like, wouldn't it be fun if we could, play beer league with our old man? Like, I don't know, that's past. I mean, they don't want to play with me anymore. But, when they were growing up, they're like, oh, I'm going to play on dad's beer league team. It's like, well, One of them does, and that's a higher level than I can play at now. But yeah, it's fun when it gets to be like that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's to me, that's one of the great things about beer league in particular over even other sports. Because I've played other sports and other club sports as an adult, and I haven't seen that. You don't, and I think that there's something with the locker room and how just kind of how hockey is that you're kind of separated from everybody in the locker room, and I don't know. There's something with it that makes it different, where you get a lot more of that camaraderie.
The only thing for me that was close to that was in my early 20s, because I was a baseball player growing up. So most people don't know. I mean, I did not play hockey growing up. I grew up around a lot of hockey players. I grew up in a hockey community. And then it just never materialized for me just because of, parents and knowledge and things like that. But I always had interest. But the only other sport that was kind of like that was softball. Like through my 20s, you'd play, like a Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday. Then maybe you played on a tournament team. So there were teams that I had played on where you were around guys, all the time. But you could never get to a competitive level like what we see in hockey, where you're playing with your kids or, you're playing with your parents. And, that's the one great thing about our sport is that, hockey you can do as a lifelong sport. That's the one thing people don't realize. They're like, man, you're in your 50s, you still skate and officiate and play hockey? I'm like, yeah, because it's a totally different motion than most other recreational sports. And you just run across people that, like, again, when we started this off, how many teams come into the league every year where there's adults that are learning how to play in Hockey North America because their kids played and they want that experience, that same level of experience. I give them a lot of credit. I mean, that's the hardest thing. One of the hardest things I think you can do is learn how to skate and play hockey as an adult, but there's a respect, and I give them credit for giving it a try because they have interest. And there's guys that play for years based on that.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. It's shocking to me. Well, I guess not shocking anymore, but it was shocking to me to see that of how many, like, the learn to play class is just because, my kids started playing and I wanted to try it.
Yeah.
And to me, one of the things that is always, I don't know, fun to watch, interesting to watch, I'm not sure what the right word is, when you go to these first couple learn to play sessions and people are kind of like really skating for the first time. They're not just going around, hanging onto the side rail. And it's kind of the light bulb moment of like, oh, this is hard. Oh my God. Like, I have my 8-year-old doing this and they're zipping. This is crap. What the heck? And it's funny to kind of see, because you see that, like, in the first couple things, you see people start to realize it. And then you even hear people saying it, of like, oh man, because I went to it, I think it was this year, when I heard somebody saying that they were just yelling at their kid about not hustling. And like, I think they were trying, they just couldn't go faster. It's hard to go fast. And it's like, yeah, it is.
Well, and that's the unique thing about the sport too, is, growing up, like, not everybody can coach it, because it's not like, baseball and soccer and somewhat football where there's a level of competency. I mean, you have to skate. I mean, there are coaches that don't skate. Let's not diminish that. There are coaches that a lot of people know that, that they don't skate. That's a very rare exception. For the most part, when you're a youth, I mean, you're out there, demonstrating drills and demonstrating things and, edge work or whatever else it takes. And so there's that level of competency now, but on the adults, that's why it's hard as an adult, because it's easier for a kid. Where's their center of gravity and their balance? It's right. Much, much lower to the ice than an adult. An adult, your center of gravity is 4 feet off the ice. So when you take a fall, it's a bigger tumble than it is when you're a 5-year-old taking a tumble on the ice.
Well, and kids are a lot less afraid to fall. Like, they're a lot more of the, I'll go all out and then fall and then realize, oh, it doesn't hurt. Whereas
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to like when I went through the beginner program, that was one of the first things they tried to have you do is fall right away. You have all this gear on, fall, so you realize it doesn't hurt. And there were a large number of people that were like, okay, I'll fall. I'm falling, I swear, slowly. And they're like getting down. It's like, no, just drop. Like it took them forever to do that. And some of them didn't. And it's like, because they're scared of it.
Is it because of the falling or is it because of the getting up?
Well, that was a whole nother thing of the getting up. That was a whole separate lesson of once you fall and being able to get up. Because
Right.
I don't know, getting up, I don't know. I sometimes I feel like I get up super fast when I fall or slide. Sometimes
in your own brain.
Sometimes that's what I was gonna say. Sometimes I feel like I get up super fast, and then sometimes I'm just like I can't get like anything underneath me, and it's taking forever. It's
Yep.
and I know how to get up, but it's just sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah.
All right, so this I have in the idea of not keeping you all afternoon. I have one last question, and then I want to do some rapid fire questions.
Oh boy. Okay.
So last question, we've talked about skating a bunch now. One of the things I think that doesn't get thought of a whole lot is how different is skating as a ref versus skating as a player?
Well, number one, it's a lot more controlled. Because you're worried about positioning on the ice. I think there's some agility built into it because, you're getting out of the way of a puck or you're getting out of the way of a player or sliding player. And so it's not just the skill of skating, but it's the anticipation of what could happen. But again, the one thing as officials we always talk about is, and that's the hard part when you start or when you're continuing to do games and there's lesser skill because you don't know where things are going. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, I've been hit several times with pucks because, and this happens at the youth level too. It happens all over the place. Kid coming around the net has his head down, adult has his head down, his or her head down, and just throws the puck. And you're just kind of in the way, and so you got to hop over it or do something. And so, there has to be, you got to still maintain some level of skill at any age, when officiating. But from a skill set standpoint, obviously the majority of what you do or what you should be doing is going backwards. So you have to have a level of competency for backward skating, moving on the ice without looking at the ice because you're looking at the play, getting out of the way, things of that nature. So I will tell you, there are current referees that they're not young, they're adults, like they're, past 30. Some of them are taking skating lessons because they take it seriously and they do some high level stuff and they want to get better.
That's good to hear, and that's good to know that people are taking that seriously. From my perspective, as someone that reffed way long ago, like 20 years ago, and was terrible at it, the two things that were most difficult for me for skating was, one, it's kind of nonstop. Like you're not skating as hard maybe necessarily, but it's
correct,
just nonstop movement, like the entire game, which very different, which was tiring as all get out. And then the having to watch a play, but keep an eye on a play, but then be moving in a different direction. Like where when you're playing, you're kind of looking where you're going. Maybe you're scanning a little bit what you're doing, but you're looking where you're going generally. Whereas that was the thing that really got me for doing that. Is like, you're like, okay, I'm watching the puck, but I know I need to slide over to be able to get this angle over here. So I have to keep watching and that was a very different skill set and very difficult for me.
Yeah. And there are times where, you think that a player should go, as just the game, like the board side, players coming down with the puck, if they're close to the boards, as a youth coach, you're teaching those players to enter the zone wide, meaning take the board side, come in wide. But then there's guys that want to cut in on the blue line. So where are you giving them space? So you're going backwards, you're looking at them and you're saying, oh my gosh, this guy's going to kill me. And I can't tell you how many times I've said, this guy's just going to run me over. I'm just, but how am I going to get out of his way? Or you give him the boards and he goes around you, or you take the boards and he goes on the inside. So yeah, there's, it's not only the skating, but it's the anticipation of where you think the play is going to go. And sometimes you guess wrong and a player just kills you and you're like, sorry, I don't mean to get in your way, or you're on the boards and you're trying to let the play go past you and somebody throws the puck up the boards and it hits your skates. Then they get mad at you because they were going to make that perfect 3-on-1 breakout pass and it was going to lead to the game-winning goal, and it hits your skates, bounces off, turns it over, and goes the other way. Well, I can't do anything about that. I'm trying to get out of your way. I'm not trying to purposely do it. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've seen that. I've seen all those from all the different perspectives of it, and it's the same thing of different. We've talked about the various levels of just beer league.
Yep.
It's easier to play at higher levels because people know what they're doing. I would think it's easier from that perspective to ref at a higher level because generally people are doing what you think they're going to do. It's way faster, but generally there is beginner level. Who knows what people are doing or what they're thinking, and they might be going, I'm trying to go here, but I'm going here. I don't know why, and I can't stop.
Yeah. Yeah, but great point on the speed. The higher level skilled games are faster. They're not necessarily easier, but again, it's just a different skill set. Guys are going to make better passes. They're going to shoot better. They're going to know what they're doing. Your struggle is you got to keep up with the play, and the play is a lot faster. But again, that's all part of the maturation as an official to get to that. You don't start off by doing those. I didn't do a level 1 or level 2 game for the first 3 years because number one, I didn't want to. I wasn't ready for it. It's just like I didn't do high school. I wanted to do youth for the first couple of years because somebody told me early on, the more games you do, the slower the game gets. Meaning, you're out there and you can take it all in. I remember doing my first 14U game, Bantam game, which is in youth sports or youth hockey. It's the first opportunity they have to body check. And the first time I did a 14U game, I was terrified to death because I thought the speed was it was so quick and I didn't want to miss a call. I didn't want somebody getting hurt. And, now it's it's not a big deal to do 14U games. It's not a big deal to do high school games because I've been in that situation. So it's the same thing in the adult league, the beer league. It's once you start doing those games in general, it just becomes a little bit easier because of your experience.
Oh, that makes sense. I think that and it's the same as playing. That's a similar thing to playing is as you play a higher level, the game hopefully slows down a little bit. As you get better and better with it, hopefully.
Yeah, I always said playing too. It's when you played a higher division, and there were times where it was lopsided. It might be 10-0 in a game, but you had an unbelievable skate because just the level of skill was there, and you're playing a team that had higher skill, and even though they kicked your rear end in, you're like, man, that was a good skate, even though we got our butts kicked. Yeah, because you're going up and down the ice.
Yeah, I've been a part of those. I've been on both sides of those kind of games.
We all have. All have. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing. It happens.
All right. So like I said, I think in the idea of not keeping you all day, we usually end when we have somebody new on with a couple of rapid fire, quick questions. Usually these are more directed at players, but I think they're still applicable.
Okay.
All right. This is actually just a general question I have with refs is I ask base layer or no base layer? Under your stuff.
Base layer. 100%. Sometimes multiple base layers because it get cold.
I guess that's true. Yeah, you don't have all the stuff on you. So yeah, that makes sense. Skate socks, athletic socks, dress socks, or no socks?
I last year I wore a pair of hockey specific socks that were cut resistant. I still have them, but for some games I'll wear athletic socks. Ankle socks.
Particular reason? Ankle socks.
Just ease of putting them on and off and sweat and like if I wear a pair of athletic socks that are ankle socks, I have a pair of like shin tights or whatever that I put on so the equipment's not touching my skin. I've gone from a base layer where I have padding all the way down to my ankles, but I've kind of resorted to, I'd say, football padding, just shorts underneath, just elbow pads up top. Some guys wear padded shirts, but for me, it's just, yeah, I don't have padded pants either. There's some pants that come with shins and hip protectors and all that stuff. I like to tell people I got enough protection around my hips and my waist area to soften any blows.
I don't know. I have the full gear on, and I've taken some falls that they're terrible. So I can't imagine doing that with nothing. All right. And this is more of a player one, but you played slap shot or wrist shot?
Wrist.
Okay. Wheel bag or backpack bag?
Wow. If you're only giving me the choice, I'd say backpack. No wheels.
Those two. Okay. Then parking lot cookout or locker room beers?
Both.
One or the other?
Well, obviously with the weather being where it's at, it's probably locker room.
Okay. And then 6 a.m. game or 11 p.m. game?
I've never played a 6 a.m. game, so I don't know what that perspective is getting up that early. I've skated as an official 6 a.m. games, so I'd probably, from an official standpoint, would probably say 6 a.m. versus 11 a.m. would be preferred.
Would it be different as a player?
I mean, I think so. I mean, and it depends on your age, things of that nature. But I mean, getting up and playing a game at 6 a.m., I mean, it's hard to ref a game. I mean, I think the earliest I've done a game is like 6:30, maybe 7 a.m. And that's, I mean, it's just hard to get going. It's hard to get going. But then sometimes late at night, you're dead tired, and the last thing you want to do is skate a game.
That's true. That's why I ask. I will say, from my perspective, the absolute worst time for a game is like the 8 p.m. game, because it's early enough that, you know, you can't really do anything after work besides get ready. But It's not right after work, and it's not late enough that you can be like, oh, I can have like some dinner, or I can sit down for a while. Like, no, it's just at this really bad time that, you know, it's not early enough to be okay and not late enough to be okay.
Yeah, but 8 p.m. you can get the most spectators there.
I know you can get like 4, sometimes 6.
Oh, it's
crazy.
That's capacity.
And that's when the scouts show up too. That's what I've been told.
Well, they show up at any time. I mean, they'll show up and you won't even know that the scouts are there.
Well, they're watching on Live Bar. They're watching all the games on Live Bar, so you don't know.
They're watching. Trust me.
Oh, I know. I'm just waiting for the call. It's coming at some point.
I know. We're all waiting for it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ron Wilson. Appreciate your perspective as a beer league and a whole bunch of other stuff ref and former player. This has been a pleasure, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, this has been fun. I really appreciate the opportunity to share some of my experiences.
Hopefully we can get you back on. Get some questions from the audience out there. If people have stuff that they would like to find out, get your perspective on.
Sure.
Or to hear from them.
Yeah, if there's any other topics that come up, I'd be happy to jump back on.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Catch you in the next one.